Hello there, and welcome to this new Blender tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to make this very table. Sadly I cannot cover all of the things in one video, like for instance the stuff that is on the table and next to the table and on the wall. That is something that has to wait until a future tutorial if you guys want it. But yeah, until then I will just make this table and texture it for you so you can see how to make it. If you have any questions regarding anything on the table, you can ask in the comment section and I will try my best to answer you and maybe even make a tutorial in the future about some stuff on the table. But until then, I have a separate file open for the measurements and I will enable my screencast keys and you can just model along. This is really not a hard project, but you'll see for yourself. So first thing we're going to do is just scale it down on the Z-axis to actually not scale it, but go to the item tab and on the Z-axis at dimensions type in 0.02. That is going to scale it down to 2 centimeters in height, and on the Y-axis we're just going to go with 0.8 and that should be fine, and on the X-axis we're going to leave it at 2 centimeters. Now what we need to do is apply the rotation and the scale, and we can go ahead and actually import another cube and make the measurements be 0.02 on the x-axis and 0.8 so that it matches this here on the y-axis, and let's just make the height 0.6 centimeters, 0.6 meters, which is equivalent to 60 centimeters. Now, in front of the graphic view, which we can enter by pressing numpad 1, we can press G and hold down the control button to snap it right to this edge here. And let's do the same for the Z-axis. And that is looking fine. Now we could make the width of the draw, which we can easily do by duplicating this and moving it out like so. That looks fine, but I would like it to be a little bit more narrow. Now let's actually keep it like this. Now you could tweak it however you like, but yeah, that is just something I wanted to do. Now we need to move this here, this back plate here, somewhere over here. And now we're facing an issue which we can easily solve by simply enabling the snapping tool and going to face. Now if we select this face here, press G and X and go to this face here, it's going to snap it right to that. And let's just do the same thing here. Oops. G, X, and now we got it. Now we can just press F3 and set origin to center of mass volume, and that is going to recenter the origin point. Now by pressing numpad 3 we can just simply disable the snap and go back to increments so we can snap in the orthographic viewport and simply do the same thing again, duplicate it and bring it to the other side. Now that looks good. Now what we need to do is add 3 of those here, 2 of those loop cuts by pressing Ctrl R, and I'm going to Alt click on here and then Shift Alt click on here and delete the faces, also this here. Now what we need to do is Alt click on those rings here, on those edges with the edge selection tool and press F to fill it, and what that allows us to do is simply we can add 2 loop cuts here, and what we need to do now is bevel them slightly, like so. Now what we need to do is get this face here, bring it down, roughly like so. You could bring it in a little bit more. Now what I want to do is give this here a bevel modifier, apply the scale, going to go with 2 millimeters, And yeah, this looks fine. If we subdivide this by pressing Ctrl 2, this looks good. Let's just give this 4 segments. But yeah, you wouldn't like to fit your hand in here, right? Because it's kind of having an odd shape. So let's add in one more like this, and add in the same on this side. Looks good, I think. Let's just straighten this out by alt-clicking on this and pressing S, X, and 0. Same with this here, press X, 0. Now we have this little bevel here. We could keep it or leave it. For instance, if you would like to manually adjust that, you could put this to like 60, and then you could do it with a little bevel like so, which I think looks better topologically. And now let's reset the location of the origin and add in an array modifier. Set to 1 on the z-axis and 0 on the other. Simply set to 3, and here you go, you have your drawers ready. Now what you need to do is go to mirror on this bottom plate and select one of those here, either this or this, and set it to Z. Now we have this top part of our drawer, of our table, and this is already starting to look like a table. Now what we need to do is simply duplicate this and rotate it on the y-axis. And let's just bring it here until it aligns with those edges here. Now we can simply duplicate this here again. There's a lot of duplication going on here, and I will set this. First I will apply the rotation scale. Let's actually do it for all the items. Now I will set this here to 0.0. Nope, that is the wrong tab. This here to 0.29. That should do the trick, I think. Just align it. And yeah, that's fine. Now let's just put it right here. And this one right here. I like this position here. Duplicate it, bring it down, and align it with the edge here. Now that looks really good. Let's just scale this here, because I like this free room over here. But now, my thought process when I was making this in the first place was, if I was to put something heavy over here on this edge here, it would snap right here, because there is a lot of free room, and this is going to be wood after all. So what I did was add some metal stands here, which I'm going to show you how to do right now. First, let us reset the cursor location by pressing Shift S and cursor to the origin. Now what we need to do is add an AC cylinder, scale it down, bring it over here. You can press S and Shift Z to just make it slimmer. Just make it look like you want it to look. And make sure to delete the top faces and the bottom faces. Okay, now that we have done that, we can shade this smooth and go in here, select everything, cursor to selected, and add in a circle, make it a lot smaller. We're just going to make a little stand here, bring it down so it intersects with the floor, bring it up, bring it in like this, and up again, again in like this, and down like this. Now if we subdivide, it looks like this, which is how it looked in my final render. But actually, I think giving this little edge here, a little edge here, and a little edge here makes it look a lot nicer. So I will keep this. Let's just hover over it with the mouse and press L, so it selects everything. Shift D, RX 180, and let's just bring it to the top so we don't have to model it over again. Now that we have done that, we could just press number pad 3 and bring it out here until you can't see it behind this wall anymore. Now if we add an array modifier, set to Y and not X, you can up the count to about 10. And now we play with this value. And 1.3 seems to be fine in this case. It's sticking out a little bit, but I'm not going to go into so much detail right now. This looks good. Now we are pretty much done, I think. No, we need to bevel everything. So let's just take this here, add in a bevel modifier, 2 millimeters, 4 segments. Now select this here, this, and this, and at last this here, so it has the orange outline. Control L and modifiers. This gives everything the same modifier. Now we can just apply the rotation and the scale for everything, and it should look good. And if we shade it smooth, everything looks like nice except the bottom plane here. We should add a bevel modifier as well, but we need to do it separately. 4 segments, and that looks nice. Now we can apply the mirror and work on this here. Let's place in a loop cut right about here. Bevel it like so. Make another bevel like so. Take this face here, bring it in, and that should be good, I think. Let's give this a subdivision surface, and as you can see, we have this harsh corner, which I didn't have in my final render, and I'm going to show you how to get rid of it. Just simply increase this value here, something big, and now you can add in a loop like this, a loop like this, scale them in, do the same here, one loop, bevel it out, and you have that nice looking line here, which wraps around, which I really like. Now for texturing. For this here, I haven't really used any unwrapping. All I did was use some projections. So I have to open my texture folder here. You can really use any textures that you want. So let's go into the shading workspace, get to this bottom part here, and it already has a texture applied, or a material applied. So I'm just going to drag in my texture like this, plug it in, and as you can see, it's heavily distorted. And we could do a UV unwrap, but it would still be a little bit distorted, which I tried out a lot. So in the end, I just put in a mapping node and a texture coordinate node, plug the object into the vector, and as you can see, it looks fine. Now for this here, we would need to set a different material, but that's something we're going to do later. As of now, I think this looks fine. Let's just call this material wood top, and I'm going to give the same material to this. Rotation and scale. Now, it doesn't seem to look good on all these sides, so what we're going to do is put this here to box. As you can see, now it changed the position of the wood, or the rotation of the wood, which I don't really like. So what we're going to have to do is, first of all, make a separate material for this, and on this here wood top, we're going to have to change the rotation on the z-axis to 90 degrees. Now it follows the orientation of the wood again. Now for this here, we're just going to have to change the rotation on the x-axis to be 90 degrees, and that will do the trick as well. Now we're going to give this wood top 1, because we've made a separate material for it. And again here, that is the wrong material, wood top 1. Have we not shaped? This needs a bevel as well, of course. Forgot to put it in. 2 millimeters and 4 segments. Now it looks good. And same here, wood top 1 and wood top 1. This here gets the normal wood top because it's facing upright. Again here, wood top 1 and wood top 1. That looks nice. For those here, I think it's wood top 1 as well. Or is it? It's neither of them. So we're going to have to make a separate material for those. Reset the Z rotation and go to the Y and give this 90 degrees, and that looks nice. Now we have done that. Now we go to these rods here, make a separate material, call those rods. Just crank up the metallic, put the roughness to something low like 0.15. That is basically all I did. And I gave the bottom ones, the bottom here and the top here, slightly more rough material. So just go here, press plus, assign, and go to roughness, 0.25 and metallic 1. And that's basically the whole magic. Now for the sidings here. Actually, let's put in the different maps I got. We just need to texture this to the end. So normal map. Can't see my keyboard properly because of my microphone. So the normal map goes into the normal map. The gloss goes in here. Actually, we need to set this to non-color data and box, and then here again non-color data and box, and the gloss into the roughness. And because glossiness is the inverted form of roughness, we need to invert this with an invert node. That's an attribute node, like so. Now it's starting to look good. And the displacement, we need a bump node. The color goes into the height. Set it to non-color and box. Let's set the normal map strength to 0.5 and this distance here to 0.05. That looks a lot better. Maybe even lower. Something like that. Now what we can do is simply copy all of this here and paste it in like this. So now all we need to do is hook up the maps, like so. This goes in here, this goes in here, Just going to speed this up. Okay, and once you've done that for all the materials, you should have something that looks like this, and you could stop right there. But I'm not going to stop here because I want some for the sidings as well. So I'm going to first go in here and go into the face selection mode, alt click here and alt click here, give this a separate material. And for that one we can just simply use the UV Unwrap. So simply select the top, the bottom face and one edge on the back, mark seam, and AU Unwrap, and that should give us a good unwrap. Same here, just simply select all the top faces, all the bottom faces, and one edge behind. Preferably you'd want to deselect all the bottom edges here, so you only have the rim. Okay, so that looks nice. Now Ctrl E and mark seam, AU Unwrap, and that looks good. Now let me see what I'm going to choose. I'm not going to make a fancy material for that. I'm just going to take any wood texture so that you can see how it looks. Just increase the scale. Okay, that is quite the ugly texture. Let me get a new one. Okay, I'm just going to get the other wood texture, which I've used before, but I'm going to make it darker. Okay, wrong keyboard. So I'm just going to take the value and put it down so it's darker, a bit less saturation, and the rotation. Put the X rotation to 90 and play with the scale until it looks good. That here looks good, for instance. If you don't mind, you can have another seam right here, and that would give you a little bit more resolution per edge. This here looks good. Now you could do the same thing for the other pieces as well. Just simply take the front and the back, and then add in this edge here, mark seam, AU Unwrap, and simply give this the siding material. Just see what it's called, material 001. That is material 001. Now that is wood top 001. Here that is that sign, and you have that siding. And after doing it for all the elements, things should look like this. Let me just go into the layout tab. Here. Now you have this nice black outline on the sidings and a nice looking table with wood. Now you could of course at any point tweak this here to be even deeper. Just take this here, this, and put it in deeper. There's absolutely no problem to it. The texture will just adjust according to it. But yeah, you might need to change the threshold. As you can see, now it gets really sharp. Maybe that's what you even like. So yeah, I hope you liked this tutorial, and I will see you in the next one. See ya, bye.